What's going on, traders? This week we're looking to repeat the same success we had in last trading week. With that being said, let's get right into this week's Forex Forecast. Alright, we are going to begin with the US dollar COT report. The past week the banks added 1,449 long contracts and they also added 1,102 short contracts. Starting with the daily chart here, you can clearly see we are into this daily supply zone. I called this one out last week. Clearly struggling to break above it. Definitely no great move down. Definitely not a great indication that we're reacting off the supply very strongly and that we're going to push down to the lows. I would not say that that has taken place yet, but I do think we still, with the supply and control, if you look, the overall trend, it is down. So I am expecting to see some sort of move. A move to where? At least to about 102.5-ish, 102.7. Around there, I think that would be like the mid-term move to the downside that I would see. Longer term, I think we could break the lows if we do in fact react to the downside here. Now, remember, if you go to a weekly chart here to get a little bit of a bigger perspective, this weekly demand is in control. I've pointed out this weekly demand multiple times now, but remember, this demand was created back here. It was almost tested here, tested once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5th test right now, and look at this test. It was tested very, very deep. So, am I expecting the zone to hold to really push back up to like weekly supply, to the 110s? I don't know. I really don't think so, but we cannot deny, this upward move here on the weekly chart. It's been 1, pretty much 2, 3, 4, at least 3 to 4 pretty bullish weeks here, on the dollar. Although, like I said, on the daily chart, the trend is down. So we're going to be looking at this daily supply to see what takes place at this supply zone. Obviously, it's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days reacting off of this supply. Clearly, there is some sort of supply here. Now, the question is, are we going to remove it or not? And honestly, it is very difficult to tell at this point. We can get some more evidence here on the 4-hour chart. Right now we have a 4-hour demand at 103.3 that is currently holding up price. But you can see the overall price action on the 4-hour chart is pretty much sideways. So in my opinion, the banks or the large players are clearly gathering some sort of position up. Now, if that's going to be to push price to the upside or to the downside, that is going to be, we're going to have to see what happens. But for me personally, with that daily supply and control, I have to go with shorts. So what I'm going to be looking for here is the removal of this 4-hour demand. If we are left with a 4-hour supply zone, we could look, we could be looking for shorts if we react off of that supply zone on the US dollar. So pretty much all, like I said, all going to be revolving around this daily chart here. Pretty nice push up, but with the daily supply and control, I don't really want to be buying the dollar at this point. If we remove that supply, then I think that's definitely a bullish indication. And going back to the weekly chart, if we remove that daily supply, I think that is a fair enough amount of evidence to suggest maybe we could see some long-term bullishness here on the US dollar. On to the forecast for the Euro US dollar. The past week, the banks got rid of 9,100 longs and they also added 6,600 short positions. So you can see here on the daily chart, we clearly had that pretty nice upward trend line here. And that upward trend line was removed by supply at 1.09 here on the daily chart. Now, this is definitely a very good supply zone. But if you just look here, supplies here, demand is down here. We're pretty much just floating almost 50% of the way in between the supply and demand zones. So it's definitely difficult to predict what is going to take place. All I know is if we do push up to that daily supply, it's a decent area to potentially look for a short trade if you are bearish on the euro. And right now, on the 4-hour chart, clearly we have a 4-hour downtrend here with a 4-hour supply zone currently being respected and holding. So what can we really do with that information? Well, since this supply is in control, we could be looking for day trading shorts to continue to trade to the downside. And as long as we have this 4-hour downward trend line holding, I'm going to be bearish the Euro US dollar. If we can get something like this where we remove the downward trend line in supply, okay, maybe at that point we could look for longs and we could say, hey, maybe we are actually going to push back up to that daily supply. But as long as we have that 4-hour downtrend, I am going to be bearish on the euro. And as you can see, we had a pretty nice 4-hour supply zone right here. We got a beautiful pullback short trade off of this supply zone. 5-to-1 was achieved. I called out this supply zone in the daily market breakdown video for the Diamond members. And if you guys do want access to the daily market breakdown videos, much more, video lessons, Sunday Zoom sessions, and much more, you want help with your trading, check it out. The Diamond membership, links are in the description down below. We also have lifetime access. So to kind of recap, as long as we have this 4-hour downward trend line, all signs are pointing to the downside on the euro US dollar. Two pretty decent red candles here. Definitely indicating that this 4-hour supply is going to hold. And if we can remove that downward trend line, then at that point, like I said, it's definitely evidence to suggest we could be pulling back up, on the daily chart back up to that daily supply. But in the meantime, with the 4-hour and the 1-hour downtrend, me personally, I think day trading short the euro US dollar is going to be the best bet. On to the forecast for gold. The past week, the banks got rid of 21,260 long contracts, and they also got rid of 10,841 short contracts. Looking at a daily chart here, we have the daily demand down below at 1996. That's a decent area to look for a long trade, especially if you're a swing trader. I think a lot of people are trying to trade this downward momentum right now to the downside on gold, and I think that, that's certainly okay. Just want to remind you guys the bigger picture here on gold. We have a pretty nice weekly uptrend. We have a beautiful weekly upward trend line here. So just want to point that out. Yes, we are kind of at the high, so buying gold isn't the best idea right now. But if we get a pullback, like I said, to that daily zone, well, we have a weekly uptrend. So in my opinion, any dip buying opportunity is a dip buying opportunity. It is what it is. It's an opportunity to trade with that overall weekly trend. So I don't want you guys to get distracted. Okay, yes, we do have a pretty nice and consistent 4-hour downtrend right now. Yes, we could be day trading this downtrend, but profit margin is going to be cut when we start to reach levels of demand, like I said, on that daily chart, and even down here at about 1986, down at this 4-hour area of demand. So this is also a decent little 4-hour demand zone where we could look for long trades. And like I said earlier, we have a 4-hour downtrend, so we could be just day trading short this downtrend. When I say day trading, I usually mean a 15-minute chart, a 5-minute time frame, or a 1-minute time frame. So as long as we have this 4-hour downward trend line holding, we could be looking for shorts. Now, I did notice this price action up here. I do think it's possible we get maybe some sort of manipulative move up here to break above these highs and then push back down, something like that. So keep an eye out for that. I think we could see some move like that, but at the end of the day, with the trend being to the downside, we were just looking to trade with that 4-hour downtrend. And then as soon as we hit this daily demand about 1996, at that point, I would feel pretty comfortable switching to long again to trade with that overall weekly uptrend. Remember, guys, any questions at all, do not hesitate to leave me a question down in the comments down below. I respond to every comment. On to the forecast for the USDJPY. The past week, the banks added 22,490 long contracts, and they also added 8,405 short contracts. A lot of longs added here in the USDJPY. Could be an indication that we could, blast through the highs here through this weekly supply, with that COT report data. So definitely very, very telling here, in the USDJPY. And honestly, if we break this high in the weekly chart, that would give us a very, very nice looking weekly trend line. I could just see it happen. I don't like to just play predictive trading like that, like, oh, it's definitely going to happen. But I'm just saying that would be a pretty nice little weekly uptrend. And by the way, on the USDJPY, on Monday, we have the Bank of Japan Outlook Report monetary policy statement coming out. So definitely be cautious trading the yen around that time. Looking at the daily chart, we have supply above and demand down below. We are closer to supply. Obviously, a very nice push up, kind of just basing out though here. So the big question is, obviously, are we going to go up or are we going to go down? Well, if we go down, we have a very, very clear profit target to about 145.77. That's a decent area to look for a potential swing trade to the upside. If you are bearish, the USDJPY, which I get being bearish the dollar right now, we are into that daily supply. We are obviously going to have to monitor the DXY as well, but we do have two daily supply zones, one located at 148.97 and one that I actually prefer that's above at about 150.36. These are areas we could look for potential short trades in the USDJPY. Now, remember, we have to watch the DXY chart, but I'm just pointing out these supply zones because of a lot of profit margin if we hit them to the downside to demand. So they could definitely be, very, very decent areas to look for trades on the USDJPY. And if you guys are enjoying this video so far, make sure to hit that like button. I do these weekly Forex Forecast videos for free every single week, and every like helps, as all the money that I make from the ad revenue from these videos is donated to my local hospice charity. So make sure to like that video, guys, and subscribe if you are new. And looking at the 4-hour chart here of the USDJPY, currently reacting off of supply. If we break to the upside here and we break these supply zones, I mean, as you can see here, these two latest candles are pretty bullish candles. It's definitely telling that we could get another explosive move up. Any 4-hour demand zone that is created here, we could be looking for longs at. But as far as USDN goes now, no fresh zones, for me to point out. As far as USDN goes, going to be monitoring that 4-hour chart right now and that daily chart as well to see if we can hit either the supply zone or the demand zone. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the GBPUSD. The past week, the banks added 6,369 longs, and they also added 5,863 short positions. Looking at a daily chart here first of the pound. By the way, guys, what are your thoughts on the pound? Let me know in the comments down below. Remember, we are doing this every week. I want to hear your guys' thoughts every week on the pound. But anyways, my thoughts on the pound here. It's just really choppy on the daily chart. Yes, the overall trend, is to the upside. We have a demand zone that was in control down here, pushed up to supply, but we're kind of just basing out. And honestly, the pound hasn't really been offering, that good of setups. The sideways action is a little bit more visible here on the 1-hour chart. But what I will say is, if you are bullish on the pound, we do have 1-hour demand right here at 1.26. Clearly, this price action, we are pulling back down to this 1-hour demand zone. So I think it's a good area to look for longs if you are bullish. But remember, guys, it's not the highest odds situation right now, just due to the nature of this sideways price action. Yes, you can see zones being blown right through, and that's usually what happens when we are trading in a sideways market. So take what I'm saying about that zone with a grain of salt. Even on the 4-hour chart, the sideways action is actually very, very visible here. It's just sideways action. The pound, in my opinion, not the highest odds pair to be trading. There's no fresh demand down here, even on the 4-hour chart, to be looking at. So what I'm going to be looking for here for longs on the pound really is a nice break to the upside, maybe breaking this high, at least this high here, that's located at about 1.278. Once we can break that high, okay, maybe we could be looking for longs here on the pound. But we don't even have a 4-hour uptrend that we could be day trading at all. So honestly, the pound, not one of my favorite ones to be trading, guys, but I want to know your thoughts. Are you interested in trading the pound, or are you having the same opinion as me, where you're struggling to really make up your mind of where price is going here on the British pound? All right, on to the USDCAD forecast. The past week, the banks got rid of 9,365 longs, and they also got rid of 4,428 shorts. So we're going to start things off here with the daily chart. We start with the daily chart. But anyways, daily supply pretty much in control. We didn't quite hit it, but we can pretty much call that supply in control. And looks kind of similar to the DXY chart. We have the daily supply in control as well. So you guys guessed it. I am bearish personally here on the USDCAD. I'm seeing two potential trading setups. As you can see, we had demand zone 1 and demand zone 2, both completely blown through, as if they pretty much weren't even there. I mean, we did kind of hesitate here a little bit, which then created supply. So we have two demand zones removed, leaving us with two supply zones. This supply zone here at 1.34, it's decent. When a zone looks like this, which isn't that great, you could just be using this as a higher time frame and be on a lower time frame, like a 5-minute chart, looking for day trades off of that supply. The zone above is actually a little bit better, in my opinion. I'm actually going to tighten it up just a little bit here at about 1.349. So if you're bearish to USDCAD, that's where I would be looking for shorts at that supply zone at 1.34. And obviously, starting to see a little bit of bullish moves here. So let's say you want to short up here and you want to be saying, hey, I want to trade this pullback. Well, you can, but like I said, it's got to be on day trading time frames, and it's kind of low odds anyway because the momentum is down. Yeah, it's possible we do pull back to supply and react, but I personally don't want to be trading that upper move. I would rather just be waiting for supply zones here. to be contacted here on the USDCAD. But obviously, it's going to revolve around the DXY as well. And on the 4-hour chart of the USDCAD here, I'm really not loving this sideways action, but as you can see, we clearly kind of starting to break below here, break below those some demand zones. So I think we could start to see, that next leg down here. In the USDCAD, especially with just how the DXY and the DXY looks on the daily chart, as well as the daily chart here on the USDCAD. If we break these daily supply zones, even on the DXY, I'm going to be pretty bullish on the US dollar pair. So I'm still bearish on the US dollar for the meantime, but it's close. If we start to break that, like I said, break the daily supply zones, I'm gonna have to kind of change my tone on the US dollar. On to the forecast for the Aussie US dollar. The past week, the banks got rid of 2,959 longs, and they also added 3,304 short contracts. Looking at the daily chart here, clearly some sort of triangle pattern here, whatever you want to call that. But what I am seeing here, I trade supply and demand, so I'm seeing a demand zone removed, which has left us with supply above at 0.66. Clearly basing out here. So how do we trade this? Well, we're going to go to the lower time frames to see what's taking place. But as far as the daily chart goes here, the question is obviously, I think we could go lower. Will we react at the daily supply? Who knows? But we can kind of frame our trading around that supply zone, which means if we are going to be looking for longs on day trading time frames, we have a very clear profit target to 0.665. Looking at the Aussie US dollar. So looking at the 1-hour chart, clearly a lot of sideways action. I absolutely despise this price action here. In my opinion, whether you want to trade long or short, we need to start seeing clear direction to one side or the other, something like that, or something like this, where we have very, very clear direction before we make really any serious trading decisions. Now, onto the 4-hour chart. What we also could be looking for, clearly this downward trend line is being respected once, twice, 3 times. Kind of, we want to pierce above it. We clearly want to break it, just based on what I'm seeing. Who knows? This sideways action could be large players building up a position to push price up higher. Who knows? But what I'm going to be monitoring is this trend line. If we can get that break of the trend line, leaving us with a 4-hour demand zone, okay, at that point, we could say maybe we can get in long at that 4-hour demand zone to get in long to trade back up to that daily supply zone. If you want to frame your trading like that, I think that that's completely fine, but we're going to have to wait for this downward trend line to be removed first. And I am noticing this 4-hour supply zone here. If you are bearish on the Aussie, I think this is a decent 4-hour supply zone above at 0.66. Yes, it will be above the trend line, but we could kind of maybe trap the breakout traders to the long side at that supply zone, potentially look for shorts here. It's kind of inside that daily supply as well. So like I said, if we break above, giving us a 4-hour demand zone, we can potentially trade from demand up to supply with a clear profit target. So for me personally, I'm going to be monitoring this 4-hour chart. If we, and as far as shorts go, I'm essentially short bias right now. As long as this trend line is holding, we could be looking for shorts. Clearly, nice push down, couple red candles here. We could be looking for day trading shorts on a 50-minute, 5-minute, or a 1-minute time frame, as long as that trend line is holding, like I said here on the Aussie US dollar. On to the forecast for the USDCHF. The past week, the banks added 855 longs and they got rid of 578 shorts. Remember, guys, weekly downward trend line in control right now. A little bit of a drop-based drop supply zone in control on the weekly chart. Overall, daily downward trend line and trend as well. Beautiful downward trend line. Trend line currently being respected. So, we are definitely bearish here on the USD Swiss. If you come to a 4-hour chart here, we clearly had, this demand zone was removed, which has left us with supply above at 0.868. I actually had an order at this supply zone and I was not filled. It was just a little bit above these wicks. It was not filled. Pretty sad, but it is what it is. On to the next one. So that trade's kind of already worked out. We just broke the upper trend line as well, though. So definitely a bearish sign here on the USD Swiss. I think if we do push back up to that supply, I think it's still a decent area to look for a short. I personally pulled my order, but it could be an area where you look for day trading shorts inside of that supply zone. I think that that's fine. And why I like these areas for shorts, why I was looking for shorts, is because I want to trade with the overall weekly and the daily downtrend. I mean, it's pretty clear to me. And on the 1-hour chart, clearly a 1-hour supply zone being respected here. I think we could pretty much, as long as the supply zone is being respected, be trading pullbacks to day trading time frame shorts as well here on the USD Swiss. The next move I'm going to be looking for, if we can remove this low here on the 1 hour chart, that would give us a 1 hour downtrend. And that would pretty much say, hey, I think we're going to continue with the daily and the weekly downtrend. And we, once we break this low, like I said, 1 hour downtrend in control, and then we could start to look for day trading shorts as well, and it would be even higher odds. So really just waiting for that downward trend to kind of continue here on the 1 hour chart, or who knows, maybe we'll pull back up to that 4 hour supply, like I said, where we could potentially get a short trade as well. I'm not really super against it, even though it's pretty much a tested area. The overall trend on the weekly and the daily chart pretty much trump any tested areas of supply, because we want to be trading with the overall trends. Last but not least, we are on to crude oil. Seeing some very, very nice moves here on crude oil. The past week, the banks got rid of 5,822 longs, and they also got rid of 27,806 shorts. Very, very telling here in the COT report as they remove those shorts, and we see a very, very nice push up. But we are into supply right now on crude oil, but we are actually left with a little bit of a daily demand zone down here. So right now, what I'm asking myself is, are we going to see the move from supply back down to demand? Me personally, I am bullish on oil. If we push down to this daily demand down at 75.31, I am going to be looking for longs in that daily demand zone. It's not my favorite demand zone. I don't like this before, but it is demand, and my macro chart analysis is telling me that we could see oil push up. So I'm personally going to be looking for longs off that zone. The next thing we could be looking for is if we break that supply there, any zone here, we could also be looking for longs at. So I am bullish on crude oil. I do have long trades right now. Clearly demand, being respected. And with the 4 hour uptrend, guys, okay, we are a little bit overextended here. Very, very bullish green candle. But with the overall trend being to the upside, day trading longs are definitely going to be your friend. And when I say day trading longs, like I said earlier, it's going to be on a 1 minute, 5 minute, or a 15-minute chart. But remember, daily supply is in control. The reason I'm saying we could still look for longs is because it's a very tested supply zone, but it doesn't mean we won't see a reaction off of the supply, because, let's say you are a bank or a large player, and you have an objective to push oil back up to like $90 a barrel. Well, okay, you might want to get people to push price back down to daily demand and fill in that long entry. So we could still see this supply take an effect and push down to demand, where I'll be looking for longs. But in the meantime, it's longs all the way. And if we break this daily demand, then I think this whole move was pretty much a fake out. So in the meantime, like I said, day trading longs, definitely. And we're going to have to wait to see what happens on that daily chart as well here on crude oil. And if you guys want to watch the full-length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.